Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to be showing you the process for this month's master study, which is The Flapper by Frank Leyendecker. So let's get started. So Frank Leyendecker was born actually Franz Xavier Leyendecker. And a common thing that happened in the late 1800s / early 1900s was if you immigrated from a different country to the United States, you sometimes changed your name to be a little bit more quote-unquote American sounding. So he was born Franz Xavier, but when they moved, it looks like when they immigrated to the United States, he changed his name to Frank Xavier. So he was known most of the time as Frank Xavier Leyendecker, or also sometimes Frank James Leyendecker. And he and his older brother Joseph Christian, or J.C. Leyendecker, actually worked in a shared studio. They worked together quite frequently. And it was first located in Chicago, then moved to New York State. And Frank was known very well for stained glass work, which I don't believe his brother really did very much. So that was one area where Frank kind of excelled or broke away from his brother's work. But he did also do illustrations for posters and books and magazines and ad companies. He also did some work for the Kellogg's company, the Kellogg's Kids series, which last month the master study that I did was actually of one of the Kellogg's Kids that was done by JC. And the Kellogg's Kids images, I think, that were done by his brother Frank, were a little bit less angelic looking. They weren't the little like quintessential cherub children. They were a little bit more exaggerated and, in my personal opinion, like creepy. And personally, I love creepy, so I love them very much. But I'm not sure if that was on purpose or if it was just natural to him. It was just more natural to Frank's style. Because Frank's style did tend to lean more towards the fantastical or even the surrealist style of art. And he did, a lot of his illustrations were done of like circus performers and very bejeweled and fancy looking couples or women. And the piece that I chose to do a master study of this month is actually called The Flapper. And it is of a flapper style woman with butterfly wings. And she looks like she could be like a circus performer or just a stage performer. And I honestly thought that the use of this woman who's dressed as a flapper with butterfly wings and calling it The Flapper was like one of the best dad jokes of all time, so I just had to do it. Plus, I really love the image. So the number one reason that I think that this study wasn't the most successful is because I chose an image that is very detailed. Again, I love this image, but because I gave myself a time limit of 2 hours for these master studies, it's going to be very difficult to paint in all of the little details of this woman's costume within that time frame, and to get it, right, to make it look realistic, to give it some depth and give it the treatment that it deserves. So what I did this time around was actually increase the time. I gave myself permission to do three hours instead of 2. And then I also did a lot of, you'll see in this process video that I did a lot of copy paste, flip horizontal to kind of make both sides of the image almost mirror each other. You can see that her legs kind of overlap each other and they're not exact mirrors of each other, so I did try to capture that. But everything else, from like the butterfly wings and most of the costume and the face, I did do that mirror effect. And that helped me save some time, but honestly, even with doing the cheats and giving myself the extra hour, I still don't feel like I had enough time to really get in the details correctly and make them look good. But that does give you a very humble appreciation of the time and like painstaking care that the Leyendeckers did put into every piece that they created. Frank Leyendecker was very similar to his brother in that every part of an image was just full of detail, and it wasn't just that one spot of the illustration was fully realized and fully detailed and then everything else was left kind of blank or unfinished or just loose. Every single piece of every single illustration, at least that he made public, is completely detailed. For this particular piece, I did use peppermint for sketching, then I used tinderbox for inking, and then for a lot of the painting I used Salamanca. I'm not sure if that's pronounced correctly, but the Salamanca brush is in the painting category. And All of those are standard brushes that are in Procreate. The only non-standard brush that I did use is from Georg's Inktober brush set 2020, which I have linked in several other videos, but I'll link it down below. And that is a brush set that I purchased. But everything else that I used was just Procreate standard. Towards the end of the process, I did also use a couple of watercolor textures or watercolor splashes that I laid on top of everything and then set to a linear burn mode to give especially the background, a little bit more of a painterly textured vibe because it felt a little bit flat and plain. But again, part of the reason that I give myself a time limit when I'm doing these studies is because I know myself personally, I could spend hours and hours and hours and hours trying to get everything perfect and getting myself stressed out because it's almost impossible to get perfect. So setting myself a time limit will keep me out of that loop, but it also helps to exercise your decision-making muscle and following your intuition. So if you know that you're on a time crunch, it helps you kind of get out of your head of like, should I do this? Should I not do this? Paint this and then repaint that. And then, no, I don't like that. That doesn't look right. You just have to go with like the flow of where your creativity wants to go rather than trying to control the entire process. So in that respect, I do think that the study was successful. The end result, I don't think is the most successful replication of or representation of, Leyendecker's piece, but it does help you gain an understanding of what the original painter, the original artist, was probably going through, the decisions they were making, and just exactly how much time and talent and skill it took to create the final piece. With that, I'm just going to let you enjoy the rest of the video, and if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. Thank you.